Who is Sile? Pre-Christianity is filled with images and carvings of female deities, of the goddess, of she who gives life and takes it away in the oldest traditions of creation-centered spirituality. In Europe, we have thousands of carvings of goddess imagery dating back to 20,000 BC and beyond, dated thanks to the work of Maria Gimbutas during the 70s and 80s. We have the bird and the snake goddesses, the weavers and the spinners, the deer and the bear goddesses, and their rich symbology shows us a prehistory that venerated a rich matrilineal goddess religion dating back to Paleolithic times, where the goddess was worshipped as bringer and taker of life. In Ireland, and notably in much more recent medieval times, in the advent of the European witch hunts, when suppression of the feminine was rife, we have the mysterious image of Sile, found over doorways, in threshold places, on walls of medieval churches, buried in graveyards. Many of her carvings have been defaced, hidden, and destroyed. She went unrecorded by archaeologists who first found her here in Ireland in the 1840s, so disgusted were they by her image. Who is she? Where did she come from? How has she survived so long over church doorways and threshold places? And what does she mean? Sile appears in her many forms to be a primitive carving of an old woman displaying an enlarged vulva. Her top half is usually emaciated looking with visible ribs, and her bottom half often shows an enlarged fertile vagina. In some iterations of her, she is standing or possibly dancing, and in many images she is squatting. In some carvings she has one arm raised and one opening her vulva. In others, both hands are opening her vulva. According to Wikipedia, there are over 120 examples of her in Ireland, 45 in England, Scotland and Wales, and still more in Germany, Denmark, France and Spain. I found 2 male versions, though they may be much older in origin than the 12th century. In Ireland specifically, there's a strong connection of her being placed in castles and dwelling places more than churches. Many of her carvings have been lost or destroyed. Her image didn't fit with what we know of medieval Christianity, and much more mystery still surrounds her unique presence. She was believed by archaeologists who first found her to have come from Norman carvings in 11th and 12th century France, which eventually made their way to Britain and Ireland over time. Her symbolism was once taken to be a warning against lust over church doorways, later possibly a protective symbol that warded off evil spirits in the skirt-lifting tradition of Dulucai and possibly Baubo. Dulucai was a protective figure from the Palau Islands in the Western Pacific, a figure that protected the village crops and warded off evil. Baubo was a companion of Demeter in 4th century Greek mythology, famed for skirt lifting as entertainment. There are also many other much older carvings that have similarities to Sile. Frog goddess carvings and figurines were widespread in Old Europe and date back to Neolithic times. The fish goddess of Lepenski Vir from 6000 BC has bird feet for hands, an enlarged vulva, and is almost egg-shaped with a bald head, bearing a remarkable resemblance to Sile, as does the squatting woman carving from Göbekli Tepe, which is 10,000 years old. The Indian goddess Laja Gauri dates back to between the 1st and 3rd century and also prominently displays her vulva. She is said to be a fertility goddess. It is now increasingly believed that Sile represents the survival of a pagan goddess incorporated into Christian churches, which fits with the medieval church approach to gradual Christianization of Ireland and its symbols. Because of challenges dating her carvings, It seems she's been carved at many different timelines, suggesting incorporation of a much older symbology. Her day was once widely celebrated in Ireland before the famine, and her feast days travelled with immigrants to America and Canada, in particular Newfoundland, where she is still celebrated. At one point, she was celebrated as St. Patrick's wife. In medieval folk tradition, Sile appears to have been a symbol of female empowerment and the life-giving powers of the female. She was also said to represent the vital connection between Cuileach and new life in the maiden, mother crone life cycle of nature, representing wisdom, old age, death, and new life. She has been linked to the Ban Fasa, holder of community wisdom and healing in Old Ireland. According to Barbara Freitag, author of Sile na gig, Unravelling an Enigma, Sile belongs to the realm of folk deities and as such is associated with the life-giving powers, birth, death, and renewal of life. Folk deities are found in peasant societies where they preside over certain departments of life. Knowledge of the special power they exercise is transmitted orally and forms part of the folk tradition. Central to the survival of any rural society is the biological reproduction of its members, a close relationship with nature, and a reverence for traditional custom. Placed in a cyclical agricultural pattern, Sile generally, it seems, was regarded as the guarantor of crops, animals, and humans, but in particular, she was the divine assistance at childbirth, who at the time formed a link with the realm of the dead. She goes on to conclude, the truth is that we have absolutely no idea what Siles were used for, where they came from, and why they have survived so long. Through Reformation, Plague, Cromwell, and the Victorians, the Sile has survived to the 21st century, where it is hoped she can now be given proper recognition and a rightful place in world archaeology. Sile is now widely seen to be a symbol of fertility and female empowerment, and of celebrating both sexuality and birth, aspects of ourselves once shrouded in shame. Maria Gimbutas says, the portrayal of the goddess in a birth-giving posture for some 20,000 years demonstrates that this aspect of the deity was a constant focus of attention. I feel from Sile that she is calling us to open to life, birth ourselves anew at the equinox, and balance our wisdom and innocence. Who is she to you?